All right. Welcome back to CS Mob. I'm so excited to have these women on to talk about the amazing work that Key is doing, especially within the small business space. So I would like to introduce Nicole and Karina. Please introduce yourselves to our audience.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for this invitation. It's been wonderful to get to know you, Allison, and share a building with you. You're just a few doors down, which is nice. But my name is Nicole Davis, and I'm with Key Private Bank. I'm a relationship manager that covers their Columbus location.
And I'm Karina Biehl. Thank you to Allison. This is a really fun opportunity to join you guys today, and I appreciate being here. I also work for KeyBank's Business Advisory Services Group. And while we do serve the greater Columbus area, we are a national resource across the entirety of KeyBank's footprint.
Yeah, and you're the 12th largest bank, I think is what you ladies told me.
That's
Yeah,
right.
That is
which is
correct.
incredible to have you in our own backyard. So, do you want to tell me a little bit about Key's like footprint and specifically, Karina, within the small business space, what you're focused on?
Yeah, I can talk broad and then Karina can dive in. But
Yeah.
basically, bank, we have a football, we're kind of coast to coast. We're across five different presence in a lot of the big cities, but also in a lot of the surrounding cities, suburbs of those major cities as well. So we serve clients with about 1 million or more in investable assets. We do specialized planning, investment, just private banking services, and then I'm pairing up with Karina today because she and I have done a lot of work together in the business space and business advisory services, which is just a really fun, cool arm of Key Private Bank. So I was glad she could hop on today to share about that specifically.
And we're kind of the nerds of the bank. We specialize really in a lot of the analytical specialty for business owners exclusively, as the name would imply. Business advisory services is really an offering for existing clients of the bank, and to Nicole's point, all over the footprint. Some of those folks are headquartered in Cleveland, where we are. Others are international or spread all over the country. But really, what we're here to do is offer perspectives, give insight, knowledge. Sometimes it's you don't know what you don't know kind of engagement. We're working with these owners to really guide them through any type of succession or exit planning engagement. Sometimes they don't even know what that means. Sometimes they just know,
Mhm.
hey, I'm getting burned out. I'm getting tired of doing this. What does the next chapter look like for me? And how do I transition from this phase to the next phase? We present all those options. All of them have different sets of pros, cons, math, processes behind how they work. And we bring that information to light and help them guide themselves through which of those options make sense, which ones are feasible, how do they work, is it enough? Does it meet my goals and objectives and my priorities? Hopefully, we're narrowing that playing field down from 7 or 8 options to maybe one or two, sometimes three. We're diving really deep into the business analytics. What is it worth? It can be worth literally millions of dollars difference depending on
Yeah.
the type of exit that they're considering. So what is that number? What are the terms? How long does that take?
And you do this for any businesses with a Key business banking account?
Any sort of relationship. So what we are not is transactional. We are not looking for a one-time, hey, pay us this fee engagement and then good luck to you, see you hopefully tomorrow. This is more about a relationship that we can foster and grow, hopefully through generations, whether that's intra-family generations or multiple generations of a business enterprise. So with any sort of relationship, I'm brought into that fold as a member of the team. That might mean we do have a lending relationship with the business, whether that's a business banking or a commercial or investment bank relationship. Sometimes it means we have a wealth management relationship with an owner or multiple owners. Sometimes that means we administer the 401k. The definition of what that relationship is comprised of is very fluid, but we are interested in working with folks who want to partner with us for a long time.
That's what I think so unique about this is so many folks think of like, oh, I have a business banker and I talk to them once a year and there's not really relationship fostered. And that feels like the differentiator for what you're doing here is you really want to get to know your clients and have a better, longer relationship.
Not only do we want to get to know them better, but we really want to be in a position to give them truly agnostic, objective advice. And if we're doing this for a fee or we're getting referral credit, if we send you out to this investment banking unit or in this other professional, there is a chance that someone might wonder, are you advising me on this just because you're getting paid? We don't charge for this. This is part of that relationship. I'm a salaried employee of the bank. It matters not to me how an owner chooses to exit. It matters to me that they're doing so in a well-informed, disciplined approach that they aren't going to look back on later and say, man, I wish somebody had told me about this or that. I might have made a different choice. We want them to feel good and intentional about what they're doing, and the advice that we're giving them should lead them down that path. So we don't accept any sort of referral fees from anyone. We have no vested interest in any way, shape, or form in how we advise our clients. We just want them to be educated and informed.
And you do it holistically, right? I think that's
Correct.
where you bring in Nicole of like, what's the personal piece if you sell and how do you make
100%.
sure? And so tell me a little bit about how you kind of pull all of the resources within Key to make sure it's a holistic approach.
Yep. Well, it actually starts with Nicole. So you go.
Yeah, usually, right? Usually they kind of have a relationship with either the private bank or maybe a business banker. And when they're thinking about, exiting from their business, it's not just their business, it's their baby. And I think that's something that we have to realize this is a very emotional conversation and move for them. It takes a lot. I mean, Allison, when you start something, right? From
I
scratch.
just had a conversation with a client that was talking through what their buy sell was going to look like, and I finally just said like, "Do you really want to sell it? Because everything that you're describing as part of the parameters says you're not ready to sell." And
Right.
like, I get it. You've built your whole life around this. So like,
Absolutely.
maybe
Absolutely.
hit pause. Sorry, Nicole, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
it's a great point because you're in their shoes, so you totally get that. Um, and we see it all the time. They come to us, they're thinking about it, they're treading softly, they want to, gather information, but the reality is if a sale is going to come, there's going to be probably a large, amount of wealth that they come into. So it's very important that Karina's work does link up with what we do in the private bank with goal based planning. And we actually have, software and systems that we have access to that we can show the implication of what that sale looks like financially, what it means if you invest it one way versus another, and what that asset protection looks like entering retirement when their income is stopping, but also what's their legacy with the money.
Mm.
What's that look like down the road? Do they have children? Do they have, charities and causes they care deeply about? I mean, it's a full body conversation that goes on for sometimes a year or two leading up to the actual pulling of the trigger per se.
12 to
I
18 months. That's
I
the
say
average.
I love this because everyone thinks like, oh, the sale just happens, you find a buyer and within 5 days, it's done. And it's such a longer process.
There's a life after exit. And a lot of owners, I equate it a lot to parenthood. For those of us in our audience that are parents, this will likely resonate with you. You create this child out of one day they're here and the next, they weren't the day before. You raise this person, you influence them, you shape them, and they are, to a great extent, a reflection of you. And you've invested enormous amounts of time and energy and money into creating this. And you hope that someday that child is going to be an independent, positively contributing member of society at large, and that you've given them the best foundation to continue on a successful path, impacting those around them in a meaningful way, the best of your ability, which means you don't want to just hand them off to anyone. Here you go. Good luck. I hope it works out, guys. See you later. And then you sail off to Tahiti. That's not how it works. You really want to make sure that the person that your child spends their life with is worthy of them. It's very much that same perspective with a lot of business owners. They don't want to just hand it off to anyone and cross their
Oh, yeah.
fingers. And I hope all my key employees are taken care of. I really hope that my customers continue to be served as well as we have worked so hard to serve them. It isn't that way. There is a very strong and often emotional connection to what the next chapter is. And thinking that through, not just in terms of numbers, that is certainly part of it. Everyone has their number, and I'll be very blunt in saying this. Most of the time, they're wrong for what they think their
Most of the
number
time they're too
is.
high.
Yes,
Yep,
usually.
yep.
On rare occasion, you get it the other way where they're shocked that it's worth how much?
That's a better
But
conversation, by the way.
much
Oh, yeah,
better.
no, it's definitely a much better
Yes,
conversation.
I like it when it goes that way. But it's not just about that number. For most people, again, I think on the surface, folks think that's all that this is. To your point, it's a transaction, it's a sale, it's money in my pocket. It's more than that. It's the legacy. And it is the generational impact. People care about the communities they live in. They want to
Yes.
know, particularly if they're a large employer, that these people are going to have their jobs, that the revenue this contributes is going to go on to the community, that the reputation they've built for taking care of their customers and their employees will continue. So we help them consider those perspectives, not just the numbers. And then again, life after exit. What happens when this transaction is closed and you've maybe transitioned out over a year or two? What's next for you? Most owners that come back with regret for exiting are not regretting the dollar amount. They're
Oh,
regretting what do I do now? I'm
yes.
not sure where my identity lies.
You know, I find this very often with folks because their identity is their business and also they're needed. And I put that in air quotes because I think
Yes.
about this with my dad. As a very small town, he owned a car dealership and when he sponsored all the youth sports and was
Yep.
there for FFA and no one asks for donations now. And it's like a very little thing, but he's like, I used to go to all of these fundraisers because people invited me because I owned a business
Yep.
and now that's gone. And that
Absolutely.
is a very different, like, mindset for
It
business owners
is.
that I don't know that anyone's truly prepared for.
No, it's interesting to see what some of them do too. And I find that one of the most rewarding things about what we do for business owners. I've had some folks, so I live in Cincinnati, and I had an owner, this was, gosh, almost 10 years ago now. He ended up being an usher for the Cincinnati Reds.
Oh, yeah.
Never even, like, that wasn't a thing. And through the conversations that we were having about what does life look like here? He had a 2-year earnout and he did have an employment contract that he had to uphold for a couple of years. So as he was sort of stair stepping out of that role, we were coaching him. What does this next chapter look like? Where do you want to spend your time on? I mean, it had been, gosh, beautiful summer weekend. On the weekend after that, we met and he said, I was at the Reds game and I always wanted to be an usher. Then do that. And he did.
I think that's brilliant that you're
Yep.
having those conversations because as a business owner, you go from working 50, 60, 70-hour weeks because
Oh,
you
yeah.
love what you do to, gosh,
Right
what do I
now.
fill my
Now
day
what?
with?
Yep.
Yeah. My dad's
Yep.
now an auctioneer and it's hilarious. I love going to see
I
him
love that.
live and in person, and it's the
It's
thing he wanted.
great.
That's
Yeah.
great.
In full effect, right? Yeah, I mean, and the family impact is also very meaningful. Another owner I worked with, over the years, he decided now he had a substantial transaction. And with the proceeds of that money, he took a fair chunk of it, bought a historic property in South Carolina, did some renovations, and turned it into a family style Airbnb. He had a large family, lots of kids, lots of
Yeah.
grandkids. That was his happy place. And they would come stay with him and his wife, and they would host holidays, and they turned it into, they would plan these fabulous days for the kids and the grandkids, and they would rotate through. And it ended up being a tremendous experience for the entire family, not just him. And we were able to do what you'd appreciate, Alice. We were able to do some pretty creative things on the estate planning side, put the home in a family limited partnership. There were some tax benefits there.
Yeah.
So again, the financial ramifications were equally as positive, but it was more about the bond the family got to share as a result of that next chapter.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's great. I was talking with some folks when I was skiing out in Salt Lake City, and they were like, yeah, our kids never visited us when we lived in wherever it was. But they're like, we bought a condo out here. And then all of a sudden, the kids show
Ta-da!
up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty
Absolutely.
remarkable.
Yeah.
There's also some guidance too, because not all of the business owners we meet are ready. So 12 to 24 months is typically what it takes. But sometimes we get in front of folks who say, I'm having a really good time. Like I'm not ready to do anything yet. This is maybe 5, 8 years away. That is okay, because the honest truth, and something that a lot of owners make the mistake of not doing, is it's never too early. It's Usually more detrimental when you wait too long. So when you have more time, we can do a lot more for you. We can
And that's
talk
what I was
about
gonna ask.
how to
Yeah.
de-risk the business, right? So folks are so busy running the day to day, they sometimes don't see the bus coming down the road.
Mhm.
We do. Have you considered this, that, or the other thing that could potentially derail things? You've got some really big potholes here in your road. We should take the time, since we have it, to fill those in. Let's de-risk first. Then we can talk about what's growth. What are you doing really well that's driving that value? What are the things that you aren't doing that you probably should be doing that would help accelerate that value to a greater extent? So we're giving them foundational starting points that they can build upon gradually over time. Again, I liken this to your house. When you think about, if you're thinking someday, yeah, I'm going to want to sell my house, and you go to the real estate agent and say, hey, what do you think I could sell this house for? And you're not real happy with the number that you get. So it begs the question, well, what would I do to drive that value up? Well, there's paint and there's carpet. You can put that on your house, and sure, it looks nice, but have
Yep.
you really made a meaningful difference in what the house is worth? Maybe a little, but not really. But if you update your kitchen, and you add another bathroom, now you're doing things that might actually change how that transaction looks. We offer that same insight for your business. What's paint and carpet? What are kitchens and bathrooms? So how do you prioritize
Yeah.
where you invest that time, that money, that energy to maximize what your goal is in an exit? Sometimes that's maximum value. Sometimes you want it to happen as fluidly and stress-free as possible with as few hiccups as you can. Sometimes you want it to happen without you. You don't want to have to stay and
Yep.
transition. Whatever your goal is, we will help prioritize those action plans for you to get there. And if that's 2 years or 10 years, that's fine.
And one of the things, because I've looked at buying businesses
hmm
and law firms, do you help with standard operating procedures? Because I continually find those don't exist in a lot of small businesses.
Yes, we do. And you are 100% right, Allison. One of the biggest surprises, and I always shake my head and wonder, how am I still surprised after 20 years of doing this? But I still am. Many small businesses do not have systematic things in place. They don't have ERP systems that can categorize their operations, that can dictate protocols. They don't have CRM systems. So they're
Oh, yeah.
not maintaining their communications. They don't know who they've talked to or when they talk to them or who they're talking to tomorrow. There is no record of what's gone on with this client. Inventory systems are not tracked efficiently, so they couldn't really even tell you how much of their inventory is obsolete or what their turns are. Systematizing a business is going to make everyone's life easier and drive value.
Yeah, I mean, I've walked away from all of these because I'm like, what am I buying? You don't have systems, that you don't have a
Right.
good client list. You have open files. It's great, but how do I get more open files once these are closed?
Yep. And when you buy the business and they're not there anymore, what have you purchased? The
Nothing.
transferability is often a problem we run into. If all of the knowledge is in your head as the owner, and you're the HR team and the CFO and the sales team
Yep.
and the operations manager, and you're the one leaving, well, what am I buying?
That's
So there has to be some transferability, again, that you build over time. This is why it's a challenge for a lot of owners, because they have to some extent, relinquish control. And they have
yep.
to come to terms with the reality that I have good ideas and I do things really well, but I'm not the only one. There's somebody else out there who can do this just as good as I can, maybe even better. And that's not a bad thing. That's something you should learn to embrace. It's sort of like, again, the rose aspect, right? You have a beautiful rose in your hand and you love having that in front of you. But the harder you squeeze, the more those thorns are going to poke you. When you loosen your grip up a little bit, it's a much more pleasant experience. Same thing. If you are able to build a well staffed bench of key management, you are already not only increasing the value of your business, but allowing yourself the opportunity to enjoy what you've
Yeah.
created. Instead of working 70, 80 hours a week and running 5 different jobs and not having the chance to enjoy the fruits of all of your labor, now you're building a path forward, not only for yourself, but for the business to succeed into the future just as successfully as it has with you.
Yeah, and it's I love this. I was just on a retreat and we were talking about control and trying to give it up. And, I think as business owners, we think we do. And then you have to sit down. Like we did an exercise with my team in November. We wrote down all of the different jobs everyone does, but we did mine. And it was just like, I ran out of paper and we were, on those big sheets of paper. And so we're like, okay, something's got to change.
Yep.
How do we, move some of this stuff around? And that exercise is incredibly valuable. We'll probably do it every fall as part of our retreat to make
Did you find
sure.
it difficult? I'm very curious. As an owner, when you saw that list, did you find it challenging to face the reality of, man, I'm probably doing too much, and how am I going to decide what to give up?
Oh, because I knew I was overwhelmed and I was hitting a burnout and I saw it coming. And I was just like, it was more of seeing my team step up that was incredible. They're like, Allison, you're doing too much. Let me take this piece. Let me take this piece. Let's hire for this piece. And I
Good
was
for
like,
you.
so, but I think that speaks to how great my team is that they saw it and they're like, we know it. Thanks for putting it in writing so we can keep pulling some stuff away.
Yep. You
Um,
you remind me of, again, coming back to the parent-child analogy. I remember when my son asked if he could cook dinner, and I thought, "Oh boy, this is gonna go really badly." And I've always been the one, I cook dinners every night from scratch. That's just the thing. That's what I do for the
yeah.
family. And I thought, "All right, we're gonna give this a shot." But and it was breakfast food. It was great. He made pancakes, bacon, scrambled eggs. It was delicious. But the pride in watching him step up, it was such a even if it had tasted terrible, I would have thoroughly enjoyed it
Yeah.
because, to your point, you watched your team step up and acknowledge, this isn't going to work for you, Allison. This isn't really beneficial for anyone. Let us do something about this. Let us guide you. You're a team. This is a partnership. You're not on an island. And the pride you must have felt is reward itself.
Oh, it's great. I have my youngest attorney. It just now starts to exude confidence when she's talking about things. Like nothing brings me more joy than watching that. And I said something the other day. I was like, man, you really have your confidence in this. And she was like, yeah, I finally do. And I was like, this is amazing. It takes a little bit of time, but once you get that, for me as like an owner and trying to mentor,
Yes,
it's incredible to see in action.
it
Well,
really is.
there's a family dynamic to it as well, even with the business owners that
100%.
work that oftentimes, when we get to the point of, okay, we're going to come into this X amount of dollars, what does this next phase of life look like for maybe it was only one of the partners that owned the business and the other partner kind of had this whole different kind of groove going on all these years. So
Mm,
how does this mesh? How do the goals and spending goals mesh and how do they differ? I mean, all of those conversations are very pivotal to the next stage of life being, as Karina said, we want the process leading up to be as seamless as possible, but we want the adjustment to be good on all sides, right? Even with the family. I see more and more, this is something that's been very unique to my time at Key, where I have seen, and I love it, I've seen my clients come in and they're bringing their children.
Yes.
yes.
10 years ago, it was kind of like quiet, like nobody really knew what mom and dad had or grandma or grandpa. And I don't know that it really, I think we found that that didn't really do a lot of favors
Right.
for the next generation, right?
From the estate planning side, please include your children or
Absolutely.
whoever you can consider family because the hardest part about when someone passes away is figuring
Mhm.
out where's the stuff.
Wishes.
And
What
what were
did
the
they intend to do?
Yes, that's
Yeah, I
something that
mean,
I think there's a pivot due. And I think, I don't know if, one generation is kind of seeing the detriment to that with their parents passing
Sure.
away. So now they're wanting to do, a little bit better or different with their children. But we love that. And even at this stage of the game with the business, I mean, if they have children, whether they're going to take it over or not, seeing this process isn't a bad idea. I mean, it gets them, some real world experience and life lessons and just seeing their, parents or their family member, their spouse or partner go through this transition and being in it with them gives them a new kind of respect and admiration
Mhm.
for what this process really means.
It opens the lines of communication too, which I think, to your point, Nicole, is maybe something that we're seeing a shift in our culture for.
I
It used to be very taboo.
I
You
would say I
don't
think
talk about,
talking about money is just less taboo and
yes,
good.
even if
Right.
you're, to your point again, if you're considering a family transfer, a multi-generational transfer within a business, that I can say is hands down the most complicated, most challenging exit path of all of them. And the
Mhm.
reason is the breakdown in communication. And simply having a private, closed door conversation with Gen 1. What are your goals? What are your objectives? What is your fear? What do you absolutely never want to see happen as your deal breaker? Then have the same conversation with Gen 2. You're going to give very different answers, but because you're having that privately, it's a Venn diagram of sorts, right?
Yeah.
What's the overlap between them? Where do they agree? They might have the same fears and concerns. They might have the same goals and objectives, but they might not. So how do we find a way to open that line of communication and facilitate, again, positive progress? We don't want to hide in the corner and not say anything and hope it works out.
Yeah.
And I have, again, you'd think nothing surprises me, but this is another one. I've been in situations where families have inherited, their parents have passed away. On the second of them to pass, they're in an attorney's office, much like yours, Allison, and you slide across a document that says, congratulations, guys, you now own the business. What? What? No one told us we
Yeah,
were
what's the
running the
business?
business. And not only are you running the business, I'm speaking of a specific example. There were 3 kids, adult children, with their own kids, but they had worked in the business, but in their own jobs. The
Mhm.
one son, he still worked on the factory floor. He was happy with that. The other, she was admin in the office, but they gave controlling shares to one child and non-controlling
Oh.
shares to the other 2. None of them
Oh.
knew they were getting anything. So imagine the conversations that unfolded there over the years. I'll give you a hint, they weren't good.
No.
So that kind of communication being opened while you have time to build a positive plan is key.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, we have one case right now, we can't find anything. And we know the decedent had money, but, like, we literally
Where is
cannot.
it?
Yeah, we don't know, and so it's really frustrating because the heirs are like, "We know, so and so had money," and we're like, "Great,
And
find
there's
me."
no communication, right? No
There was
family involvement.
0, and it's so difficult to have those conversations of, like, they may have, but we're gonna have to wait for it to a sheet to the state because we can't find any of it.
And you don't have to disclose the numbers, right? If there's still some hesitancy, I get it. That's all right. My kids don't know my financial situation at this point, but I'd still want them to understand what my intentions are, what my
Where it
wishes are,
is.
and where to go when something happens to me. I tell people all the time, early in my career, I used to tell people it doesn't do you any good if you have all of your estate documents and your healthcare documents locked in a safety deposit box and you're the
Mm,
only one with the key.
no, it's
That's
such a
essentially
pain.
what you're doing, right? And that doesn't work. You have to at least share with someone you trust. Here's where things are, and here's what to do if something happens. Same thing with your business. Read your operating agreement. Some of them, another often surprising fact, they don't even have one.
Yep,
So what
sure
happens
don't.
when you're the only one writing payroll checks and you call up Nicole and say, "Hey, I need to get some money distributed because my dad is in the hospital." Sorry, you aren't an authorized person for that, right? Like these are the things that the
Mhm.
communication lines need to be addressing.
100%. Okay, I could talk to y'all all day long about this, but we are running to our
Yep.
time. So I think
Infinite topics.
I know this I find so
It
interesting
is so
because just everything that goes into it. If folks want to utilize these services, they're already Key members
Mhm.
or they're going to go open up a Key account right now because of this conversation. How does engagement look like? How does it work?
They
yeah,
go.
so
They start with someone like Nicole.
yep. Usually it starts with a relationship manager. So every office of Key Private Bank is tasked with a team of relationship managers that do just that. They manage the relationship. We pull in what partners we need. Oftentimes for me right now, I've been working with a lot of business owners. So Karina has been my tag team partner, but sometimes it's my fiduciary strategist. Sometimes it's a local area attorney like an Allison. We have a lot of really good estate planning attorneys here locally, but they would reach out to our office for and kind of just let us do some discovery and dig into how can we best support you. You talked about how large of a bank we are, and We have a little informal tagline here. We are large enough to matter, but we're still small enough to care. So you actually get my phone number, my email. You know
Same.
where to find me. And then when Karina comes in, same thing. When the fiduciary strategist or portfolio strategist comes in, or the taxation specialist, you have their direct line. So we really do partner start to finish. But at the crux and at the middle part of that kind of wheel that we're building for you is somebody in a role like myself. And I'm in this role because that's what I love. I love kind of pulling all the pieces together. It's like a fun, complicated puzzle.
I love it. I love it. All right. So, and relationship managers are usually, tell me if I'm wrong, the folks who sit in like the cubicles or have desks and chairs. They're not the teller who's, doing the transactional deposits, correct?
Correct. So most of I mean, we are in and out of the branches as well, meeting with our clients, but more often than not, they're at kind of the main location. They have an office there. So our team is mainly at the 175 South 3rd Street for the Columbus folks up on the 12th floor of that building. But the great thing about our partnership and collaboration here, you walk into your teller and you tell your trusted teller that you've known for 20 years, hey, I think I'm going to sell my business, or I think I'm going to get married, or they hear some big life change, they're going to often suggest meeting with us, which is
Okay.
wonderful.
Yep.
That's great cross training. That's
It is.
amazing.
It is.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you can always walk into any branch and tell them that, hey, you're really interested in talking to somebody from the private bank. And is there a relationship manager that you can set up a meeting with? And they'll make that connection for you, lickety split.
Yep.
Amazing. All right. The one last question that I ask everyone.
Yeah.
If you have any advice for business owners that are starting or looking to sell, what would it be?
Do not wait to start researching, thinking about it, and having the conversation. Just because you open that door does not mean you are lighting a match and there's a fuse that you have now lit with a time bomb at the end that you have to get out of by that time. It is never too early to start the conversation and thinking about how you would like that to look. If you just started your business yesterday, start thinking about it today.
All right. I love it.
Okay.
Thank you, ladies, so much. Nicole, do you have anything
Thanks
to
so
add?
much for having us.
No, I echo what she said. That could not been more perfectly answered. So thank you.
Okay. Awesome.